A bipartisan congressional resolution was introduced last month calling on the U.S. officials to drop their charges against Julian Assange. This news comes as the UK High Court sets the stage for Assange's final appeal against extradition in February. The bill, introduced by Congressman Paul Gosar, expresses, quote, the sense of the House of Representatives that regular journalistic activities are protected under the First Amendment and that the United States ought to drop all charges against and attempts to extradite Julian Assange. Another article on this at antiwar.com points out that so far the resolution has 8 co-sponsors, including Democrats James McGovern and Ilhan Omar, as well as Republicans Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Anna Paulina Luna, Eric Burleson, Jeff Duncan, and Clay Higgins. Ahead of the UK High Court hearing scheduled on February 20th and 21st, WikiLeaks and Assange's supporters are asking Americans to contact their House representatives and urge them to support Gosar's resolution. The resolution highlights Assange's charges under the Espionage Act and how these documents unveiled war crimes committed by the U.S. in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Materials also exposed the CIA's involvement in torture and rendition practices. Notably, the resolution also emphasizes, quote, the disclosure of this information promoted public transparency through the exposure of the hiring of child prostitutes by Defense Department contractors, friendly fire incidents, human rights abuses, civilian killings, and United States use of psychological warfare. Amidst this, Assange has been held in London's high-security Belmarsh prison since his removal from the Ecuadorian embassy in 2019. The resolution also raises concerns over the potential ramifications of his extradition, highlighting that if extradited and convicted, Assange could face up to 175 years in a U.S. maximum security prison. The resolution says the successful prosecution of Mr. Assange under the Espionage Act would set a precedent allowing the United States to prosecute and imprison journalists for First Amendment protected activities. They add that First Amendment freedom of the press is essential to promote public transparency. They note that numerous human rights, press freedom, and privacy rights advocates and organizations have disclosed their sincere and steadfast support for Mr. Assange. The resolution also points out that at least 70 senators and members of parliament from Australia, a critical U.S. ally and Mr. Assange's native country, support actions that would allow Mr. Assange to return home. Meanwhile, a recent ruling by Judge John Koldel allowed 4 Americans to proceed with their lawsuit against the CIA, alleging intrusive surveillance while visiting Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Meanwhile, a recent ruling by Judge John Koldel allowed 4 Americans to proceed with their lawsuit against the CIA, alleging intrusive surveillance while visiting Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. An article from Politico on December 19th with the headline, Assange visitors can proceed with spying suit against CIA. The judge ruled that Assange visitors can proceed with their suit over allegations that a security contractor gave the CIA data copied from their phones during the visits. The article explains that in his 27-page decision, Judge Koldel rejected portions of the Assange visitors' lawsuit filed last year that alleged the CIA violated their rights by eavesdropping on conversations at the embassy and by obtaining copies of their passports. However, Koldel said accessing the contents of their phones, if that occurred, invaded the visitors' privacy rights under the U.S. Constitution. Quote, the misconduct alleged is a violation of the plaintiff's reasonable expectation of privacy in the contents of their electronic devices under the Fourth Amendment. As the article points out in his 27-page decision, Judge Koldel rejected portions of the Assange visitors' lawsuit filed last year that alleged the CIA violated their rights by eavesdropping on conversations at the embassy and by obtaining copies of their passports. However, Koldel said accessing the contents of their phones, if that occurred, invaded the visitors' privacy rights under the U.S. Constitution. Quote, the misconduct alleged is a violation of the plaintiff's reasonable expectation of privacy in the contents of their electronic devices under the Fourth Amendment. The ruling opens the door for the plaintiffs to pursue the destruction of any records the CIA may have obtained from their phones. However, the judge rejected the claim for monetary damages against former CIA Director Mike Pompeo. The lawsuit, filed in 2022, represents attorneys and journalists who visited Assange in 2017. It alleges that a security firm at the embassy provided the CIA with data collected from hidden cameras, microphones, and phone inspections during their interactions with the WikiLeaks founder. The lawyer for the visitors, Richard Roth, said in an email to Politico, quote, "We are thrilled that the court rejected the CIA's efforts to silence the plaintiffs. We merely seek to expose the CIA's attempt to carry out Pompeo's vendetta against WikiLeaks." Please leave a comment and tell me what you think about this latest update. If you could give this video a thumbs up, remember to click the like button, that's greatly appreciated, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. I will follow up soon. Thanks again.